think I'm ready for a tier list. Like I said, in December I played a lot of tabletop games, mostly Automa, unfortunately. Um, but yeah, I managed to try finally these 7 new corporations. I have tried all of them at least once. Um, and yeah, I'm gonna add them to my corporation tier list. Now, this is probably isn't as accurate as I want it to be. Like when I ranked Base, Prelude, and even Venus, I had tons of Steam games to like test it with, and even Colonies and Turmoil. They came out when I used to play more tabletop because there were more people in my city that played. But yeah, right now I'm mostly playing Automa, so that might influence, and it's only like 1 or 2 games for each, right? So yeah, because I don't have time to play 20 Automa games or 30 Automa games to try them 4 times each. So yeah, let's start ranking these. So let's go over the tiers first, I guess. Remember, the best are basically the best corporations in the game. Always solid are corporations that like have basically a very high floor. And you get a pretty like regular performance from them. They're usually like rich corps that can deal with a shitty hand at first. High combo potential, like the name says, their ceiling might be higher, like the always solid ones, or even some of the best ones sometimes, but they do need some help in your hand. And so things like Viron, obviously, if you get AI Essential and Viron, that's OP. But if you don't get any cards that tap, then you got a pretty shitty corp. Still better than some. Playable. These are sort of also like the floor is not too low. I feel. And you can always do something with them, but the ceiling is not that high. And then Needs a Hand are cards that really you can't play unless you get a hand for them. And Needs the Hand are cards that the same thing, but you like need something very very specific, or even if you get a hand, the ceiling is not even that high, right? So, and finally, unplayable, I have these 4, which I hate. All right, so let's begin. Okay, let's start with Ecotec. And I think Ecotec compares a lot to Ecoline. If you think about it, and I'm ranking it right below but above Recycling, you need plant cards, right? You can't, this is a plant corporation. It starts with 42 cash, 1 time production. The 42 is a little better than Ecoline, but only 6. Your 2 tags are good, they're very good for ecologists. They're going to give you 2 plants. Ecoline gets 3 plants. Ecoline starts with 2 production, and it places Tyranny for 7, right? Ecotec is going to give you plants or microbes every time you play one of, plant or microbe card or animal. So it's basically viral enhancers minus the animal ability, but also you can place microbes anywhere. Now the thing is, I don't think the microbe cards are that relevant. There are a few good ones, right? And it can help you complete a point. And there's things for like Venusian insects where you can get 1 per 2. But in general, I think you'd rather go for the plants, right? Most of the time. Even if you can place the microbe anywhere, you just choose the plant most of the time. An option that Viral Enhancers doesn't give you, by the way. Sorry, it does give you. But it doesn't give you the option to place it anywhere, right? So usually with Viral Enhancers, if you play a microbe card that maybe has a low like target rates, you might just get the plant if you need it, right? And then get a point out of it, something like that. This one, you can play target rates and then put the microbe on ants, or that Venus card, that's one of the best ones, the sulfur eating bacteria, for example. So it does have some uses, but let's just look at it from the plant perspective, because say the game lasts 10 generations. So Ecoline's going to produce 9 times, Ecotec's going to produce 9 times as well, so that's 9 more plants for Ecoline. It starts with 1 more plant, that's 10 more plants for Ecoline. And then every time you place a greenery, unless you say you place 10 greeneries, you save a plant with Ecoline. And 10 is a bit low, but yeah. But say you place 10, you save a plant with Ecoline, so that's 10 more, right? So Ecoline, the 3 starting ones, the 9 production, and the 10 are giving you 22 extra plants throughout the game, which is almost 3 greeneries. Ecotec is getting you 9 for the production, and then essentially you'd have to match Ecoline, you'd have to play 13 plant, animal, and microbe tags, which is doable, but it's not that common. And that's if Ecoline doesn't place that many greeneries. If it only places 10, I usually can go 15 with Ecoline, right? So I do think this just gets you less plants. It does have the advantage of, like, when you play something like grass is now giving you 4 plants, right? Because of your ability. And if you're comboing with viral enhancers, obviously Ecoline also comes with that. Then you get 5 plants. So it might be a slightly better at saving your plants, but not really. Because it's usually, you play a plant tag, it's going to get you an extra plant, but Ecoline also needs 1 less plant to place the greenery. So they're almost saving at the same rate. Like, if you're sitting at 4 plants with each and you play grass, Ecoline gets 3 plants, Ecotec gets 4 plants. And then they both place a greenery, right? So that's I'm just Ecoline's ability is just better to me. And Ecotec would be much better if it did the animal thing, because every animal would be a point. I figure they just said this is broken. So I just think Ecotec is a good plant corp. You benefit for playing a lot of plant tags, a lot of microbe tags. But ultimately, I think Ecoline is just better at rushing. And that's the other thing. You probably want to rush the game, and putting microbes on microbe cards doesn't help you do that. That's why you're going to want plant cards. To get plants out of the micro cards too, right? You get a lot of plants and you can rush the game. I think they're going to play very similar, essentially, and Ecoline is just a little better at it. Now, I do think it's better than Recyclone. It's obviously going to outpace it in terms of plant production, because even though Recyclone can get you 3 or 4, it's going to do that much later, and it starts with 0, right? Unless you can play 2 building tags in the first generation, 2 additional ones, which is doable, to be fair, especially with Preludes. But other than that, like, it's gonna take Recycling like 3 rounds to get to 3 plant prod, and I think your ability will outpace Recycling. And also Recycling doesn't start with a plant tag, which is huge, because like cards like Insect and NRA depend on it, right? So I do think it's better at the Grand Game than Recycling, but slightly worse than Ecoline. Anyway, that was a little long. But yeah, let's talk about Kuiper. So Kuiper Cooperative, I don't think it's good. I don't think it's unplayable. I'm not sure. I'm gonna put it above Phobolog. Yeah, I think I'm gonna put it above Phobolog, but below the Pharmacy Union. So here's the thing. What Kuiper does, starts with 33, which is really low, 1 titanium production, which is good, and then 2 space tags, and then you basically, every round you can get asteroids for each space tag. You can only place on yourself. And then when playing an asteroid or aquifer project, you can use your asteroids as 1. Now, if you get a very, very heavy space hand, which is the same thing as Phobolog, the thing is, you're not going to be able to play them as fast as Phobolog, right? But if you get a very heavy space hand, this can actually give you like 4 cash production towards oceans a game, which makes them okay. Like 14 for an ocean is like okay. It's not great. I think that's actually the rule. Like the standard product is 4 more expensive than what it should cost. Right, and you start with 2, so it's not too hard to get to 4. Beyond that, then yeah. So the problem is this: space tags that stay face up, that are in events, are usually good for engine games, and so you'd have to basically rush, or maybe you can just like save it for the end and place like 3 oceans to close the game. It's also helpful for the temperature track. You can save for asteroids and play that one last, the ones that get you the ocean on the temperature track. So you can just stockpile your asteroids to do things like that, or you can start rushing the game really fast and just go for both oceans and asteroids. My problem with this is, I guess you need plant prod to play it. I guess you need really good plant prod cards, and then like you can use your ability to like do asteroids and aquifers. This is what I don't like the ability. It's just it could just be cash and it'd be fine, I think. It might be a little OP, but you don't want to place asteroids on aquifers when you're not rushing, essentially. So yeah, it's a bit weird, and also you might not get the space tags that stay face up. There are not that many good ones early, and they're really expensive too. Like things like the Jovians that give you production, those are fine, but they're really expensive, like asteroid mining. Satellites is really good with these because it's the third tag, so it's already like acquired company at baseline. If you get two more tags from a Prelude, or you manage to play these, obviously ASA is probably the best Prelude for these, but if you manage to play like satellites for 5, is it satellites? The one that gives you one production. Yeah, satellites for 5. Or something like Space Station is also a good early space tag. But other than that, and there aren't that many that are good, so you really need the hand. And then I don't really know what your strategy is after that, because what are you gonna do? Place asteroids and aquifers? I mean, it's a nice discount because it's every turn, right? But it's not that great, and you need 4 to make it worthwhile. So I think you need a really good hand with it, basically. Okay, let's talk about one of the hardest to rank for me, and that is Nirgal Enterprises. Now, the game I play with this against Atoma, so let's talk about what it does. It gets an energy plant and building tag, and it gets energy plant and steel production, and awards and milestones are free, and 30 cash. The 30 cash is really low, but I think you need a hand. The thing is, it can be really good. So I'm gonna put it here, right above UNMI. So the reason it needs a hand is you need to have a path to 2 milestones for this to be worth it. If you can get 2 milestones early, you're essentially saving 16, and then you're a corporation that starts with 46 and a bunch of production, and you got advantages to claim awards. So if you claim 2 milestones, this is already winning. It's paid off. The problem is that the low cash really makes your path to milestones harder. Now you have some tags that help, so you got in production. So I mean, you got 1 tag for builder, 1 tag for ecologist, and 1 production for energizer. Even though that's pretty far, but for builder and especially ecologist, it does help. And then you got plant production, which can help a little with gardener. And then for generalist, you have 3 productions, right? And actually, cash, titanium, and heat are a bit easier to get. Heat, you can just use a standard player on the track if you need it. So you are likely to have a path, but you still need some help. And that's what I say needs a hand. And if you don't get the milestones, one of the games I played with Atoma is started on Tharsis map, and Tharsis map is brutal against Atoma because it terraforms, places cities and greeneries at an unholy pace. And by Gen 4, and I also play with the brutal rules, which lets it claim milestones earlier, essentially. Not to get into too much detail, but there's a brutal version of the rules where it claims milestones a lot earlier. And so I couldn't claim any milestones. Now, like I said, if you get 2 and it's 46, and it also that's the other thing, it might help you to a milestone, because sometimes you're competing for a milestone, and the thing preventing you is that you don't have the cash this gen, and then your opponent goes first the next gen. So it not only saves you the money for a milestone, it might help you get a milestone that you wouldn't otherwise get. And then for awards is excellent. You can claim those awards pretty early. And it's less of a race. You never want to give your opponent 5 points, and you'd rather than pay for it. But if you're in trouble and you think, okay, I only have a path to 1 award of the remaining ones. Let's say that there are 2 claimed, there are 4 available, and you're 2 gens away. Usually the other one won't get claimed that early, and your opponent might be sleeping on it, and you just claim the one you have a path to, and that might save you 5 points, right? And also sometimes the first award is really clear. It's just people are more focused on the milestones, but sometimes you're going to get the first award before you claim the last milestone, and so you can just claim that at any time. So you do. I think the advantage on a word is bigger, a lot bigger, obviously, and you're saving more money. But I think you want to aim at 2 milestones and 2 awards. You're saving 24, and assuming that's the second award, not the third, you're saving 38 cash, which is a lot, getting 38 cash. But it's also a corporation that gives you 3 production, and you might get more points because of it, right? The award is not only the cash, but you might get more points. It's just the thing where you really need a path uh, to the milestones to be sure. The awards you don't worry about when you select your hand, but you gotta see a path to 2 milestones to select it. And if you do and you claim them early, you're an above average corp, right? You just need a hand. And it's like I said, they do get a lot of help in like which into getting into some milestones, but nothing's guaranteed, especially because of the low cash. Okay, Paladin Shipping. Okay, Paladin Shipping. This is going to straight high combo potential, and I think it should go really high here. Oh, sorry, we got stuck. Okay, we got unstuck. Nice. So I'm not sure where here. High combo potential ones are hard to rank. Actually, looking at this, I feel like I have Phil Aris too high, but I don't know. But yeah, Paladin Shipping. I'm gonna drop it below Arcane Communities. I think it should go there. So what does it do? Starter 36, which is low but 5 titanium. So that's 51 if you have a good space tag that you can use basically. So that's okay. Space tag, and then every time you play a space event you get a titanium, so very nice rebate for space tags. And then you can every turn, once per turn, spend 2 titanium to get a temperature. And then that's basically a temperature for 6, which is an amazing discount. That's obviously great. So what you want to do with this thing is rush, right? You don't want to develop heat prod at all. You want to use your ability plus space events, which mostly favor the heat track, to rush the heat and the oceans, because there's a few on the oceans. And then you want to develop plant prod. And I think that's it. I think this is a very straightforward comparison. Like the ability itself is really good. Like this kind of 3 on space events, rebate of titanium on space events is really good. But you want to use it like that. It's just such a huge discount on temperature. You want to do that 10 times. So it's 19 temperature steps. You can get 10, and then you just need a few asteroids if you think about it, to like complete it. So remember not to develop heat prep with these, and just go for early plants. 1 plant production plant cards might be good with this. I didn't get any when I played it, but I did as soon as I developed like 2 or 3 plant prod, the game just started running, and I kicked the crap out of Atoma with this one. The rebate is also really nice, like I said, and like it's. So what are the disadvantages? If you don't get a space tag early, you're actually pretty low on cash, and maybe don't have a early plant, but can be really expensive. And if you don't get any space events, then or titanium production, then this is obviously dead, right? Like then you can't use it because you have 5 titanium. But you want to use your 3 early, I think, and then develop titanium production quickly, or space events. You don't want to miss even 1 activation of this, but it's really solid. I want to see how fast it can rush the game, and plant preludes are the best for this, I think, because that's the one thing you need to develop. You can deal with the rest with space events. Obviously, it gets weaker with expansions, so maybe with expansions I could move it lower because there's less plant production and less plant production and less space events at Terraform. So I would say this is like the Prelude plus base ranking. Maybe even always solid there. But then if you add colonies and you add Turmoil, I would put it below. The other thing is, remember, space events and space tags are useless in Turmoil pretty much. They're not in any of the party bonuses, and the events obviously flip. So it's not good on Turmoil. One thing that I can say for Nirgal, that plant and building both help you in Turmoil. But this one, yeah, space tags are really useless in Turmoil. So the nice thing is you can get Titanium with Unity, but Unity's not gonna be your party. So yeah, I think it drops with expansions, but base plus Prelude, this is a beast, right? And it's a Prelude 2 Corp, so like you can play base plus Prelude 2 and Prelude, and I think it's a beast. It might be always solid. Okay, moving on to the next one. Another weird one in Sagitta. It's fun, I'll say that. I'm gonna put it high combo, but then I think playable. I think playable is first. Because the combo is not really that high, so let me explain what it does. I'm gonna say below Poseidon. Between Poseidon and Seismic. So Sagitta starts with 31. Really more, but yeah. And you get to look out for a card with no tax. 2 cash production and 1 energy production, which is really good. Whenever you play a card with no tax, including this one, you get 4 cash. Card with 1 tag, you get 1 cash. So you start with 35 because you get the rebate, and you're gonna have another tagless card there that you can play. So there's a few problems. The tagless cards aren't that good. That's the first problem. There's obviously a few good ones like Marinaris, but it comes really late. I actually played Community Services, which was like for 4 production, and then you get 4 discount. But so yeah, the tagless cards, for example, in base, there are a few good ones. Protected Habitats and Lake Marinaris are the 2 best ones, obviously. But there's also things like Great Escarpment, Consortium, which are decent. Cloud Seeding, a card that I stand by. It's better than people think. I often play it. And here's the thing. A lot of these cards are bad because they're a little... I mean, once you discount 4, they're actually okay. Like Dust Seals, one of the worst cards in the game. It's not going to win you any games, but if you can play it for 1, right? 3 to draw, 2 to play, you're not going to draft it, right? But you just pick it up last in the draft and you just play 1 for a point. That's obviously worth it, right? Like I said, Cloud Seeding, 2 plant production for 7 with a minus steel, good. Sapling, so if there are cities earlier, let's say just 3 cities, you're getting 3 production. It doesn't use 5% oxygen, right? So you might not be able to play it early. But 3 production for 9 and a point, that's good. So yeah, like they get a little better. But there are better cards in the expansions. So if you go to like Venus, both Luxury Foods and Solar Nets are nice. They're late game cards. So not gonna develop your eco, but I played these 2 are 2 good cards, and 4 rebate on that is good. And then for colonies, you this is where they start doing like the theme. But community services, it's actually really good. You already have your corporation with no tax. There are a lot of preludes with no tax, which actually count. So that's another thing that's really good. Like Metals Company has no tax, so that's something big to keep in mind. And then Quantum Communications, again, this is 1 cash production per colony in play. In a 4-player game, it's insane, right? This can get you like 4 production, but if you're paying 4 for it, it pays off next round, right? And Trade Envoys, great card. You always play Trade Envoys, and now it costs 5 with the cash, right? And then Turmoil has more tax, right? So it's only Aerial Lances that doesn't have any. But yeah, there's also self-replicating robots in the Ecotec now. and Mars Nomad. So those are all good cards with no tax that are in the promos. So there's a few, right? But that's not the main thing. The main thing about Sagitta is that it gets you one cashback for like most cards, because cards with one card I think are most cards. And I'll say this first of all, it's really fun to play. This is one I won, but I was shocked. It was my favorite to play. I didn't think it. I didn't think I liked it before I played it, but just having that cashback for every card with one tag is great. And then seeing cards with no tags, like the ones I mentioned, every time you see them, you get excited. Like you never get excited about no tags, right? So, no tags actually making you excited on the draft is actually fun. So this is the most fun to play, but the one cashback for every card is huge. And also, it starts with some nice productions, especially as you're playing with colonies. I do think this one gets much better with colonies, not so much with Venus, and then a little worse with turmoil, because tags matter in turmoil, right? So tags basically play a big role in the whole like and the events, right? They're all usually per tag. Some are negative, obviously, but they're usually per tag, all the bonuses, and then the party bonuses, all except the Calvinists, are per tag too. So with turmoil, I could drop it. If you're playing just base plus colonies, I would move this to always solid, basically, because there's a lot of good no tags in colonies. But I'm just gonna keep it in playable and say it gets a little worth with turmoil, because you just even, I mean, you're gonna play some cards with no tags and cards with one tag that just really are worse with turmoil. With turmoil, you want to have tags to like get cash bonuses, right? So yeah, it just drops off a little. But yeah, I think it's playable, and it's the most fun one of the ones I played. Okay, next off, Spire. So Spire I'm gonna put in playable too. I'm just gonna put it right below Sagitta. Not because they're similar, but they do, like, it's hard to rank them for me still. So you're rich. You start with 50 cash. You draw 4 cards and discard 3, which is huge. You're digging for cards. You can keep an extra card you don't want, just because you might think, okay, I actually just want to discard 2 of the 4 I draw. Sort of like hedging your bets there. The ability is the thing I'm not crazy about, because the 50 cards and the 50 cash on the cards are great. The ability, again, 50 cash and cards are engine game. The ability is you get a science resource every time you play a card with 2 tags, and including this one, so you start with 1, and then you get a discount of 2. You can use each science resource as 2 cash for playing for standard projects. Now, all the standard projects mostly rush the game. Like cities don't, but they go with the ground game. And the only one that works for you is colonies and the energy one. Now the energy one, you avoid it as much as possible. It's not the most overpriced, but there's just tax. you want to pay a little less for it, because you're almost paying double, right? It's 7 to 11. Like if it, you're almost paying double of what you should pay, right? Because 5.5 is half, so you're paying almost double. So you really want to do the energy early, but the colonies do. That's where this works. So I think I wouldn't actually play this corporation without colonies, because I don't feel like rushing the game with 50 cash and 4 extra. It's not 4 extra cards, but 4 extra scene cards, 1 extra drawn card. So yeah, I think I think it goes here, and the standard project you want to focus on is placing colonies. Now you want to place one really early, and that's a problem. But if you manage to get like a Prelude with 2 tags early, which there aren't that many. There's like Dawn Farming, Early Settlements, Ecology Experts, IO Research, which is bad, Self-Sufficient Settlement, and then there's a few more on the new ones, but again, there's not that many Preludes with 2 tags. As opposed to 2 with no tags. I feel the no tags one are much better. And then if you manage to get a couple of cards with 2 tags early, then you can get like a discount of 6 on the first colony, and paying 11 for a colony is great. And then second colony, you'll wait a little more, and you can play that maybe almost for free if you get the right cards, right? And you're digging for cards, so that's good. But that's to me the extension of this corporation. You have to play it with colonies, or otherwise maybe go for like a city ground game, a very heavy city ground game. And I don't know. I feel like at the end of the game, it ends up being like how many cards I played. I think I essentially placed 2 colonies for free with it. I mean, some not actually. I used some for cities at the end, but like I would say I got about 17 resources on it. It's hard to get more, but that's a lot of cash. So like 17 resources towards colonies. You're starting with 50. That's good, but you have to play it with colonies. And if the colonies are bad, then like you're kind of fucked because you can't use a standard player to place twice on the same colony. So if you only really have one colony you're using heavily, it really sucks. Yeah, okay. Final one. Tycho Magnetics. This is just always solid. And I actually think it's great. I'm not sure. I might put it I'm gonna put it right on the Aridor just because I really like Aridor. If I play this more, it could go in the best. That's how good this is. Getting turn-based card draw every like if this was just pay and like development center essentially pay 1 to drop 1, it would be good. You start with a science tag, the power production to use it. You can get tapped, which is a disadvantage, and okay cash like 42 is not high, but it's not low. Now the thing is, like, once you get more cash, you're just drawing whatever the fuck you want, essentially. Like, you're seeing so many cards are returned. And so, yeah. So, a couple of things that I think are hard with this one is to, like, calibrate the right amount of energy you want to spend on this. Like if you're playing with colonies, you probably just want to use 3 for trade and the rest for this. You probably won't get any higher. But if you're not playing with colonies, and say you play like Mask and Bearer, I don't think you want to use the 6. I think 3 or 4 might be optimal. Because remember, like think about it in terms of probability. The more cards you see, the less likely you are to see a better one. So if I see one card, the next card has a, let's say, a 50% likelihood, assuming it's blind, of being better than the last one, right? So that's good. A third card would have a 33% likelihood of being better than the other 2, right? Of being the best one. When you get to the 6th card, like, you're spending an energy for a 16% likelihood of getting a better card, which is really low. So you might just want to keep that energy, right? You're getting diminishing returns on every extra energy you spend, and at some point you don't want to have 10 energy, and like your last card that you're drawing is only 10% chance to be better than the previous 9, right? Because you're only keeping 1. So there's only a 10% chance that last energy is useful, which is looking at it blindly from a probabilistic perspective, right? So I think 3 or 4 is optimal, and then if you have more energy, just let it go to heat or use it on other stuff. But I still think like with 3 energy, this is already great. Like it's probably better than AI Central with 3 or 4 energy, because AI Central, okay, draws you 2 cards, but like I would rather see 4 cards and draw 1 than draw 2 blindly. I think anyone would. You just want to draw the best cards. There's a chance you get 2 awesome cards and you have to throw 1 away. Okay, fair enough. But most turns, if you draw 3 or 4 cards, you rather pick 1 than draw 2 blindly. Even if you've seen the 4 cards, you would do that. Like this is we're talking about the whole decks, but and so I gotta play more with it, but I think this might end up on the best. So the key thing is develop economy. That's what you have to focus on. Develop energy. You don't have to like develop energy early unless you get tapped. Then you want to have your energy, right? You want to draw a return, but you want to develop your eco early, and then 3rd or 4th gen you want to get up to 3 power if you can. And And then I think with that you have an awesome draw game, and if you have the economy, you're winning the game, right? You don't want to terraform anything with this corporation. I'm actually, yeah. It might be. I'm gonna save time on putting it on the best. I have a video coming up on. I'm gonna move some corporations essentially. Because this is my original ranking, but I've changed my mind on a lot of it. Even today, looking at some of it, it was like, okay, I actually don't think they should go here. And Manutech, the obvious one, Manutech is I concede that it's better than Luna. I concede that now. After getting my ass kicked and winning games I shouldn't have won with Manutech, it's the best corporate game. Maybe it's Tycho. I don't know. I think Tycho's awesome. I think Tycho's the best corp in this new batch. And yeah, all right, that's it for my ranking. Sorry it was a little longer. I just wanted to do all 7 together. Didn't want to break it up. But let me know what you think, and see you next time.